the grammar now. Today we will learn about the subject pronouns, los pronombres de sujeto. They indicate who or what is performing the action, and they serve as a subject of the verb in a sentence. Let's take a look at this chart. Yo, I. Tú means you. Él, ella is masculine and feminine for he or she. And then usted is the formal version of you. So if you're talking to someone who is typically in Spain, we talk to elderly people with the formal address. So we would say usted. If you're also talking to your boss, someone who is above you, you also use this. In Latin America, they use usted as the generalized form. So they address most people with usted, and they only use él, ella, or any of the informal pronouns in very specific informal situations. Let's move on. Nosotros, nosotras means us or we. And then vosotros or vosotras means you in the informal plural way. Ellos, ellas is they or you. And then ustedes is again you in the formal plural. As I said before, the formal address, usted, is very commonly used in Latin American countries. It is the default way of addressing someone, whereas in Spain, we are a lot more informal. We normally only use it in very formal contexts or when we want to show respect to the elderly. So keep that in mind. Since this course is focused on Spanish from Spain, from the peninsula, we will use the informal address in most situations. In Peninsular Spanish, it is rarely used, and we reserve it only to talk to older people or to use in very formal situations at work. And because in this course we're focusing on Spanish from Spain, Peninsular Spanish, we will use the informal address more often. Now let's take a look at how to use these subject pronouns along with the verb. We will start with a bit of a confusing one, but it is important to know this verb from the beginning. To be or to be. It is one of the most commonly used verbs in Spanish, so it will be useful to become familiar with it since the beginning, even though it might seem a little bit daunting or confusing. Starting with the first translation of the verb to be, the verb ser, ser. The verb ser can be used in different contexts. For example, soy profesora de idiomas. I am a language teacher. Son de México. They are from Mexico. Eres muy simpático. You are very nice. Now take a look at the chart. The pronouns match the verb form. This is always the case, and it will tell you what pronoun and what verb form you have to use. Yo goes with soy. Tú goes with eres, you are. Él, ella, usted, es. Nosotros o nosotras, somos. Vosotros o vosotras, sois. Ellos, ellas o ustedes, son. Notice that the subject pronoun is missing in the examples that I gave you. It doesn't say yo soy profesora. It says soy profesora without the yo, the me, or I. That is because you don't need to use them unless you specifically want to emphasize who is doing the action. Since the verb already has a form for every pronoun, it already indicates the subject of the sentence, so you don't need to add the pronoun because it makes it a bit redundant. Again, let's analyze the sentence. Soy profesora. Soy is the first form of the conjugation. Therefore, it refers to yo, or I. I am. So we already know who the subject is without needing the pronoun. If I wanted to emphasize this, for example, I would say, yo soy profesora y ella es mi alumna. I am the teacher and she's my student. So you're clarifying who is who. We will see more examples in other slides. But now let's move on to the other translation of the verb, the second one. The verb to be can also mean estar, estar. Here are some examples. Estamos en casa. We are home. Está cansada hoy means she is tired today. ¿Estás feliz con el resultado? Are you happy with the result? Remember, the interrogation marks are used in the beginning and the end of the sentence to cue the reader to read this out loud with the intonation of the question. Again, if we take a look at the chart, the pronouns will always match the verb form. Yo estoy. Tú estás. And pay attention to some of the words that have accents. Tú estás. Él, ella, usted está. Nosotros, nosotras estamos. Vosotros, vosotras estáis. Ellos, ellas o ustedes están. Knowing when to use which can be very tricky, but you will find it easier by remembering the following. Ser refers to what something is. It's for permanent states. It is used to describe characteristics that are an essential part of the thing that we're talking about. So, I'm a person. Soy una persona. Soy una persona. On the other hand, estar refers to how something is. So we use it for conditions, for locations, emotions, and actions or temporary states. So, I'm ill. Estoy enferma. I'm ill right now, but next week, I hope I won't be. So I am a person, soy una persona, because that's what I am intrinsically. Whereas ill is something that comes and goes, therefore we use estoy, estar. Now let's discover a little hack that I find is quite useful to remember all of these concepts. Remember, for the verb ser, think of the word doctor, and you will see that it stands for date, occupation, characteristic, time, origin, and relation. The verb estar makes you think of the word place, and it stands for position, location, action, condition, or emotion. So whenever you're doubting which one to use, note this down and go back and think, what situation am I talking about? And then this will hopefully be a useful hack. Now it's time for some practice. I want you to use the verbs ser and estar and conjugate them properly. Hola, yo, Marta. Marta is a Spanish name. Cómo, hoy, Paula. Carla, profesora de español, Spanish teacher. Nosotros, en clase, in class. Los chicos, cansados, tired. Buenos días. Usted, el señor Gómez. Are you Mr. Gómez? Mi amigo, de Mexico. My friend is from Mexico. ¿Dónde? Tu hermano. Where is your brother? Yo. Contenta porque es viernes. I'm happy because it's Friday. And finally, mi nombre, Carlos, and I'm a student. Y estudiante. You will notice again that the subject pronouns are in parentheses. That is for the reason I explained before. We don't normally use the subject pronouns because the verb that is conjugated already indicates that the subject is, for example, yo, me. So if you say yo soy feliz, it is a bit redundant and it sounds less natural than if you just say soy feliz. Now, please pause, take your time to do the exercise, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Right, let's take a look at the answers. Hola, soy Marta. Notice the missing subject pronoun. Hola, soy Marta. You don't need to say yo soy Marta, because soy is the first person, so that indicates the subject, who the subject is. ¿Cómo estás hoy, Paula? Estás. Second person. Carla es profesora de español. Nosotros estamos en clase. Los chicos están cansados. Buenos días. ¿Usted es el señor Gómez? Are you Mr. Gómez? Mi amigo es de México. ¿Dónde está tu hermano? Estoy contenta porque es viernes. Mi nombre es Carlos y soy estudiante. You could also say me llamo Carlos. Once again, I know it's repetitive, but I would like you to notice that the subject pronoun is omitted, which is why it's written in parentheses. Moving on to the regular verbs. Los verbos regulares. Regulares. Keep practicing the R. The more you practice, the easier it will come. The regular verbs can be classified into three groups. Those that end in ar, A-R, E-R, and ir, I-R. Regular verbs are those which, in all their tenses and moods, are conjugated in the same way and the stem is unchanged. You only have to take the verb in infinitive, keep the root or the stem, and change the termination to match the conjugation. I will show you how to do it in the following slides. In this lesson, we will be focusing on the first group, that is AR or ar. Now take a look at the chart. Every verb in this group will have these terminations, and this will stay the same with every verb that ends in AR. So this is an easy thing for you to remember. We use the termination based on the subject of the action. So if I'm talking about myself, yo, we finish it with o. Tú, you, has. Él, ella, usted, a. Nosotros, nosotras, hamos. Vosotros, vosotras, hais. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, han. Now let's apply this rule to a verb, and I'm sure you will see it a lot more clearly. The verb hablar, the verb to talk or to speak. This is a regular verb from the first group because it ends in AR, ar, hablar. This is how to conjugate this verb. Yo hablo. Tú hablas. Él habla. Usted habla. Notice él masculine, ella feminine, usted formal. We say habla. Nosotros o nosotras hablamos. Vosotros, o vosotras habláis. Ellos, ellas, or ustedes hablan. Pay attention to the accents. I know we still haven't learned the theory, but it is good to start getting used to them to see how they change certain words. And by the time we start learning how to use them, you'll be a little bit more familiar with them. Now it's time for you to do some practice. So I want you to conjugate the following verbs. Yo, inglés, and the verb is hablar. Ella, muy bien en la fiesta, and the verb is bailar, to dance. Nosotros, por el parque por la tarde. Caminar means to walk. Again, as you can see, the subject pronouns are in brackets because the verb conjugation already indicates who we are talking about. Omitting the subject pronoun will make you sound a lot more natural and less repetitive. Think of it as saying, I am tall, instead of saying, I am the one who is tall. Soy alta means I'm tall. If I said, yo soy alta, I would be saying, I'm the one who is tall. And that is fine if you want to compare yourself to someone, or if someone says, you're short, and you say, actually, no, I'm tall. That's when you use the pronoun. But let's move on to the solutions to the exercises. Yo hablo inglés. I speak English. Baila muy bien en la fiesta. She's dancing really well in the party. Caminamos por el parque por la tarde. We walk along the park in the evening. This is it. I hope you did well, and I'll see you on the next slide.